Well, those photos are old spiritualist photographs. You know, you used to pay people quite a lot of money to, you'd go into their studio and they were spiritualist photographers, right? So they'd take a photograph of you and then mysteriously, you know, your daughter would appear behind you, which was obviously just them superimposing things. But Aaron Seligman, who's Chris's brother, helped us with the artwork on that. And so he started sending us these photos of these old spiritualist photographs, and I had gotten quite obsessed with them myself earlier, and so it just felt like the perfect atmosphere for an album named The Five Ghosts. And the album is a lot to do with my dad dying. While we were making it, my father died, and so I was obsessed with the notion of trying to find him and trying to talk to him. And so those photographs felt right. The other thing is that my great-grandfather was a medium, was a spirit medium in Glasgow in the early part of the 20th century. Very famous spirit medium, and he didn't charge. He was the only spirit medium around who did it for free. He worked at a stable. He was a stableman. But on the weekends, he would go and do these seances with people. And there's actually a book that a woman went and recorded like 20 of his seances, wrote down everything that happened. So it just felt like the right era and the right feel for the record. So my dad, so I do think that this thing of my great-grandfather being a medium indicates hereditariness, because he was very famous for being able to do the voices of the dead. People were very convinced by him because he was able to speak in different voices and different accents, and that's an actor. And my father was an actor, and my brother's an actor, and I'm an actor. And so I think that his empathy and his ability to pick up other people's cadences and accents, you know, if he'd been alive in the 50s or 60s, he might have been an actor too, but instead he was a medium. But I do think that there is definitely, and you know, as I was saying, I've been getting into this stuff again recently. I've been trying to write a play about ghosts, and I went to a spiritualist meeting last year. I went and saw a medium do her thing, and so much of it is about empathy. You know, cold reading someone is about being a person who is able to intuit what people need from you. And I think that that's what a good actor is able to do as well, is kind of put themselves in someone else's shoes. So the spirit world was everything for this record, because as I said, when we started making it, my father was very ill when we started making it, and he died in the middle of it. And it completely ruined me. And there's a song on the album called He Dreams He's Awake, which was recorded the day he died. Like, I had just found out he died, and I went in and recorded that vocal. And not just me, but the whole band loved my dad very much and were very close to him. And he'd been a big part of our work as well, because he's the guy who, at the beginning of Set Yourself on Fire, that guy who says, "When there's nothing left to burn," that's my father. So he had been this sort of force in our life, and you know, lent us lots of money, lent us his van and all that shit. When we were starting out, we drove around in his minivan. So we were all devastated, and we were all, you know, feeling like, how do we do this? How do we make a record right now? And the only way that we felt we could was to try to contact him through it, you know, to use the record as a way of grieving and as a way of trying to connect with him. So yeah, it was a profoundly large part of it, and really, it's the only Stars record that is like that, that is a quote unquote concept record, I guess. The rest of them, you know, they have themes and they have things that are consistent in them, but this one really was like a very focused attempt to try and talk about what it means to be haunted by someone's loss, and to try and connect with that feeling. And in that sense, it was very painful to make, but it was also an incredible gift that we were able to go in and try and reconcile this event through making music. Well, and the other reason it's my favorite is because it's focused. It's 39 minutes long. It's our shortest record. Tom McFall came back, who worked on Set Yourself on Fire with us and did it with us. And I love Tom very, very much. I love working with him. And it just feels to me like, you know, I started Stars, and I wanted Stars to be a very, I wanted the music, you know, we're very, very, very influenced by the beautiful South. And I love what Paul Heaton does in the sense of writing these very sort of lively, melodic, welcoming songs. And then you listen to the words, and they are often incredibly dark and incredibly cynical and dangerous in a way. And so that was always my goal with Stars, was to make that kind of music. And then, you know, you have plans, and life is what happens when you're making other plans. Amy came into the band, and Amy is an optimist, and Evan is an optimist, and the band began to be something else. And the fact that we were grabbing an audience and that we were actually doing this thing made me considerably less depressed than I was when the band started. So Set Yourself on Fire is this kind of, it has dark themes in it, but there's a celebratory feeling to that record. And The Five Ghosts was kind of more where I like to live, I guess, in my work. And I'm very obsessed with scary stories, with ghost stories, with scary movies, with the whole idea of using art to like purge yourself of fear by going through fear in it. So that's another reason why I love it. And I also like it because the critics didn't. And, you know, it's like they are like children, these records. And, you know, if everybody says one of your kids is ugly, you're like, fuck you, that's my most beautiful child, you know? So on that level, too, it's just like, I like to defend it because I think it was misunderstood. And that's why I'm so glad it's getting a reissue, is because over the years, Dead Hearts has actually become our biggest song. It's bigger than Your Ex-Lover Is Dead in terms of streaming, in terms of people knowing about it. And I think that there's a lot of great songs on this record that were kind of ignored when it first came out. You know, 5 was just a random number I chose. And what is really creepy is that there are 3 Torq Campbells of note. If you Google Torq Campbell, you'll find 3 Torq Campbells. One of them's me. One of them is the policeman in Glasgow who prevented someone from setting themselves on fire at the Glasgow airport. Remember when that guy drove his car into the barricades at the Glasgow airport and then attempted to immolate himself? The guy who stopped him from doing it was called Torq Cambell. And then the third Torq Cambell is the Duke of Argyll. And I read an interview after The Five Ghosts came out. I read an interview with this guy, Torq Cambell, and they said to him, and they were interviewing him about his castle that he lives in. And they said, the castle's very old. Is it haunted? To which he replied, it is actually. There's actually 5 ghosts in the castle. I was like, whoa, that's fucking weird, man. So yeah, it was a randomly chosen number, but I think maybe I was tuned in to another wavelength on some level with it. Oh man. If only I knew. I mean, certainly this. They should be trying to manufacture records with less footprint. And that's why we're just beyond thrilled to be working with Naked Record Club, because it is one little thing that we can do. And I can vouch for the fact that I just got the test pressings, and it's like the best sounding vinyl I've ever heard of ours. So there is no diminution in quality whatsoever through this process.